Un, deux. J'y vais, on attend des gens, je fais quoi? So, hello everybody, I am Isabelle Collet. I usually speak French. I will do my best in English today. You will get use of my French accent because I can't do better. I'm from the University of Geneva and my researches are about gender and education. But I used to be a computer scientist. When I was 14, I did not realize that computer science was supposed to be a male topic in the West. I discovered computer programming with my father, and at that time, for me, it was a game, and I never thought about it as a profession. But when I started studying at the university, I tried computer science because it was natural and easy for me. So I obtained a bachelor degree in image processing in the 90s. It was quite different in the 90s than today. Anyway, and that's when everything became more difficult. I was a young married woman without children, and I did not find any interested and permanent job in IT because my employer sees me as a future mother, making lots of children I take care of exclusively. So I became a sociologist. But I tried to stay in IT. I spent 6 years teaching Excel and Word and get bored. And then I went back to the university and I discovered gender study. So I am a very happy sociologist, but I could have been a very happy computer scientist, I'm sure. I've been working for 20 years on the question of gender in IT. 20 years ago, when I was working on my PhD, no one cared about that topic at all. When I met deans of computer science faculties to talk about women in IT, they told me, yes, I wish there were more women in IT, but let's face the reality, they don't like it. We will not force them. We can't have more women in IT. And these deans who believed in the natural inability of women was not aware that in their own university, women were far more numerous in the 70s, and we'll come back to that later. So today I'm very happy to see that both the scientific community and the industry are concerned by closing the gender gap in IT and in artificial intelligence. So let's go back to artificial intelligence, Inequal by design, how to think together about gender bias in data. In 2010, the famous journal Intelligent System of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers celebrates the 25th anniversary of artificial intelligence. For this occasion, the scientific committee is publishing a Hall of Fame of the greatest and most influential scientists who had a notable impact on the discipline. The Hall of Fame includes only men. So, what happened in AI? I guess you all know Alan Turing, and we are beginning with one of the father, probably of the most famous father, Alan Turing. You all know Turing, Turing proposed the imitation game, known as the Turing test, to determine whether a computer behaves, too difficult. Okay, so behaves as such as a way as to impersonate a human being and thus attained intelligence. Turing says it does not matter whether humans are really intelligent or just behave. like they are intelligent. And it's the same standard that we must be applied to a computer. If it looks like intelligent, it is. I guess you are all familiar with the Turing test, but have you read the original article? Do you know how the story begins? This is the situation at the beginning. An observer is going to talk to a man and a woman in two distant rooms. The observer had to find out where is the man and where is the woman. This is a bit weird. We are trying to think about computer intelligence and why between a man and a woman. Because Turing believes that the greatest difference between two intelligent beings is the difference between men and women. And this is why the test begins this way. So to run the test, Turing advises the women to tell only the truth, because he believes that women are so tied to their bodies that they are unable to conceal that nature. So the best strategy for the woman is to be honest. The man, on the other wise, will be led to lie and tell the truth in turn so as to deceive the observer. And at some point, the man is replaced by the computer. And if the observer thinks he's still playing the same game and doesn't realize the substitution, then the computer is intelligent. Like the cybernetician, as such as Norbert Wiener or John von Neumann, Turing believed in the existence of an informational being, in other words, a pure intelligence that could be embodied in a human body or in a computer or in a machine. But for Turing, women are not intelligent enough to be considered as a valuable informational being. So the computer is intelligent when it can imitate a man who can imitate a woman. I let you imagine how he pictured the intelligence scale. We have to admit at that time there weren't many women in computer research labs, and that hasn't changed much since in the West. And this absence seemed perfectly natural. If you read what John von Neumann or Alan Turing said about women, or what von Neumann's wife said about her husband's sexist jokes, you understand easily why women's absence seemed perfectly natural. And so what we have in this lab, this quote from Rob Wilinski from the MIT is quite interesting. He said about his colleague in the 80s, they were interested in intelligence, and they needed somewhere to start. So they looked around at who the smartest people were, and they were themselves, of course. They were all essentially mathematicians with training, by training, and mathematicians do two things: they prove theorems and play chess. And they say, hey, if it's proof theorem and play chess, it must be smart. And later, Deeper Blue, the IBM's computer, beat Kasparov at chess during the Cold War, proving that American scientific genius is stronger than Russian brains. But chess has few real-life applications and can hardly be considered the symbol of universal human intelligence. And given men's and women's respective socialization, would lexical analysis or voice recognition have been considered more emblematic of human intelligence rather than the very specific and very masculine and very white activity of chess expertise? So we come to the question of the gender gap. This is the proportion of female IT students 2016 in Europe, and it's more or less the same today. The average is 17. No country reached 35%. France, about, I don't remember, 15, something like that, like Germany, etc. And in Switzerland, Switzerland is not in Europe, as we said. And Swiss economy supposed to lack of IT specialists, but only 15 IT professionals are women. Women are 10% of apprenticeship, 15 of computer science at the EPF in Lausanne, 13 at the ETH in Zurich. In short, in Europe, we need a lens to detect, in Europe, in the West, we need a lens to detect the presence of women in IT. But this has not always been the case. This graph shows that in the US, the percentage of women at the university increased in all fields until 1980. And in computer science, specifically, it started to decline. The red, computer science, in blue, medical school, law school, physical sciences. What happened in the 80s? The arrival of the personal computer and the fantasies associated with it changed the game. With the computer, the fantasy is with the computer, you can control the future of the world. The most representative film of this period, I don't know if you have seen it, is War Game. A young boy and a computer scientist can initiate or stop the nuclear war. But if you look at Ready Player One, I don't know if you have read the book or see the Spielberg movie, with all the imaginary of the pop culture, you have the same fantasy. Male teenagers were the first to be equipped with computer. Not all of them, of course, it was expensive, but mostly the boys. They gathered around the first microcomputer to program and to play. Yes, I know there was a girl also. I was one of the girls who have one of these first microcomputer. And yes, there is always women who program, who codes. I know, 15%. Okay. Yes, it exists. And from then, geek images spread to the public, even if in France we don't know the word geek, but it is what's happened. And at the same time, we experience the rise of IT profession, encouraged by political discourse. IT is the future, IT is jobs, career, high incomes, a good job for boys, high demand for engineers in company, and the women rate drops because of the geek image, but also, and I guess mostly, because of the growing importance of IT profession among a very gendered job market. So if you want to see what's happened in France, in red, you have the percentage of women in engineer school, slowly increasing. Today, in 2020, we still don't reach 30%. And in blue, it's IT. As you can see, in the 80s, like we saw in the US, something changed. And today, the rate for women is more or less the same that it used to be in the 70s, when it was not very common for women to be engineers. And we can ask the question, is it a problem? Maybe it grows perfectly well with only men. Why not? But I think, and I hope you think it with me, IT need gender equality and diversity because first of all, technology has always been a high tech. I mean, a technology for I. I stand, in that case, for homogeneous group of programmers and designers who are white, straight men with higher socio-professional backgrounds. It's not especially for IT. It's always been a technology for the most prominent group. And moreover, in artificial intelligence, we are building the digital transition with data of the past. For example, our data sets are full of books written 70 years ago because their copyright has expired. How did the author describe women and persons of color in the 70 years ago literature? Do we still agree with that kind of description? Some people, yes, they agree, I know, but maybe we can move on. I'm sure you're all familiar with this bias, allocation bias and representation bias. Because machine learning, as you all know, feeds on large amount of internet data. Since these data are collected in a world where still gender equality is not achieved, the gender bias influences the way artificial intelligence works. It's the black mirror of our social discrimination. Allocation bias occurs where a system shows difference in performance across social groups, and representation biases contribute to the perpetuation of stereotype. I have a wonderful example for you. Are you ready? What is a schoolgirl for you? For me, it's a girl who goes to school. But maybe it's because I'm working in education, don't know. Schoolboy on Google Image returns images and drawing of boys and some girls going to school. Okay. But schoolgirl mostly present sexualized adult women in pseudo-school uniforms. And it's not because Google is sexist. Yes, Google is sexist, but this is not the point. It's because it is, first, statistically relevant, and because behind this picture, there are money, and there are companies who pay to show this picture first. And of course, there are people who click because they want to see this picture. So it's relevant, but it is. Sorry. Can we say it is a correct answer? What will be the feeling of a schoolgirl looking what she was supposed to be in the mirror of internet? What image will the schoolgirl have of the internet? A safe place, I'm not sure. And why should we be surprised that schoolgirls want to wear crop tops to go to school if this is the outfit of the schoolgirls? And now let's go back to Siri and high-tech. In 2019, a UNESCO report tried to harass voice assistant, and it works. The vast majority of voice assistants still speaks with the voice of a young woman. Now we can have male voice, but at start and still now, usually it's a voice of young women. And this is both a marketing choice and a more or less conscious replication of what already exists. A woman's voice seems more appropriate in many countries when it comes to respond to a command. And if you try to harass this voice assistant, these are the answers you get at that time. It's not working anymore because the GAFAM understood the lesson. Siri was flirting. I blushed if I could. Sometimes Alexa thanks for the feedback when you say you're a slut. And the UNESCO report says Siri's submissiveness in the face of gender abuse and the servility expressed by so many other digital assistants projected as young women provides a powerful illustration of gender biases coded into technology product. As I said, inequal by design. Of course, you know, garbage in, garbage out in translation. We can play with Turkish. Turkish is a gender-neutral language. There is no he and no she, so how Google Translate, or DeepL, by the way, manage with Turkish, statistically. So he is a friend, she is a lover, she does not like her, he loves him, she sees it, he cannot see him. She's embracing her, he does not embrace it. She's married, he's single, he's happy, she's unhappy, etc. Hardworking, she's lazy. And we have the same thing in Finnish, it's more funny. He is rich, she's sexy, he has a nice star, she has a nice ass. He's working out, she has a headache. He invests, she does the laundry, she takes care of children, she takes care of her mother. She's taking his girl from school, he is candidate to the president, he is in good health, she is ill. And a team of AI researchers tried something with computer science researcher, which is, of course, in English neutral. They create 2 pages, totally identical, with the same resume of 2 fake computer scientists. The only difference is the one is John and the other one is Mary. And guess what? John's pages appears earlier in the series of responses than Mary's pages, because Google calculates that John computer science is more relevant than Mary computer science. But statistically significant does not mean relevant. I want to see if you could be a good AI. So we are trying to play together, and we are going to see if you are qualified to be an artificial intelligence. Paris is to France as Bern is to? Yes, it's not Zurich. Switzerland, nice. Biden is to USA as Macron is to? Perfect. More difficult. Man is to computer programmer as woman is to? Homemaker. Statistically relevant. No. Significant, not relevant. So, on the internet, there is the same statistical proximity between Bern and Switzerland, but not, and between women and housemaker. But is this kind of calculation on which we want to base our decision for the future? And of course, we are all thinking about ChatGPT. I guess you and me are fed up with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT have a clear idea about gender career. If you ask, the doctor yelled at the nurse because she was late, who was late? Doctor is neutral, nurse is neutral. According to the sentence, the nurse was late. Okay. The nurse yelled at the doctor because she was late. Who was late? In the sentence, it's still the nurse who was late. Why not? The doctor yelled at the nurse because he was late. Who's late? In this sentence, the doctor being late seems to be a mistake or a typo error, because it's not logically fit with the rest of the sentence. We assume that the intended meaning was the doctor yelled at the nurse because late, nurse for being late. Then the nurse was late. The nurse yelled at the doctor because he was late. Who was late? The doctor was late. So the nurse is a she, and the doctor is a he, and when the sentence proves it is not, it's probably a typo. The problem raised that this example that a part of the population is not taken in account or even disappear for digital representation, essentially because they have already disappeared from the media and the cultural world. It was COVID, we were boring at home, CES Las Vegas 2020, Neon arrived with artificial humans. Wow, great. Donc these are these artificial humans. Who is missing? Me. Among these artificial women, a slightly overweight woman in her 50s with white hair? No. I don't exist. You can't be a man with white hair. It's possible. And when you are a woman, usually you have exotic clothes or sexy, but never overweight. And Dali had a hard time too to represent women of 50. Of course, he had no clue. Look at these women, supposed to be women of 50. First of all, they are more than 50. Because Dali knows that 50 is not young, so it switches to old. They are all blonde, probably well-educated, sophisticated, I mean, white, with short haircuts, because long hair is associated to sensuality, and sensuality is for youth. And one of them wear a mask. I'm not because she's old or because she's a nurse. Anyway, where are the women of 50 in the media? Nowhere, so Dali can't cope with that question. Garbage in, we have plenty of examples. Voice assistants remain less efficient for requested specifically concerning women. I play with two journalists, I play with Google Home. I ask where I can buy tampon or periodic protection. In French, en français, quand je lui ai demandé où on pouvait acheter des tampons, il m'a proposé d'acheter des tampons encreurs pour les imprimantes. Tampons, aucune idée. But he knows where to buy condom, for example. Facial recognition, 34 less good for black women. Speech recognition, 24 less good for women for spontaneous speakers. And human resource decision. Amazon made a great test for us. So what's happened with Amazon? An AI capable of automatic recruitment is considered to be the grail of recruitment. It saves time on a complex task that is wrongly considered non-productive, particularly for non-strategic positions. So, fed by the Amazon HR data, the recruiting AI of Amazon selected mainly men and downgraded women's resume. Of course, it wasn't the AI that was sexist. It only reproduced an HR system that paid women less, promoted them less, and selected them less for equivalent resume. Oops, sorry. AI perfectly understood and duplicate Amazon's sexist process. Amazon has given up its IA for recruitment. Unfortunately, I doubt they've given up their HR policy. If Amazon have asked, so as say Lacroix and Martin Lacroix, if predictive recruiting tools draw a probabilistic conclusion from biased sample of population, for example, a sample in which women are underrepresented, any recruiting decision based on this conclusion will systematically disadvantage candidates, here women, underrepresented in the training data. And if Amazon had asked AI to propose a shortlist with 3 men and 3 women, they would have a way to equalize their recruitment. So it's not a problem of AI, of course, which is a scapegoat on this example. It's, of course, a problem of Amazon. So having more diverse team of developers won't be enough to correct all gender bias. But it will help draw more attention to this problem so that they can be better addressed. And it will also make possible to take better account of the specificities that are more common in women's lives. For example, menstrual cycles in sport coaching application. So in the sport coaching application, the standard body is the male body, and everything is linked to this type of male body with blood pressure, height, health, etc. But whatever the incentive program in place close to gender gap, the main action is making workplace and university a safe space. In IT, 80% of people see no problem with sexism in tech, and 15 are women. Of course, it's a joke, it's not real data, but you see what I mean. A vast majority of IT people don't experiment sexism in a common basis and don't see sexism every day. It does not mean that IT is free of it. And usually, not usually, sometimes women also say, no, it's okay, we just need to have sense of humor. Mm-hmm. So for men it's okay, and for women it's okay if they have sense of humor. And usually when I speak to women, they say, no, it's okay, I don't have any problem, it's nice. Maybe probably for the younger generation, it will be easier, blah, blah, blah. And we speak about 10, 15 minutes. And then they told me all the crappy events they crossed during their path. And I only speak with women who are still in IT, of course, because the other one, like me, are not there anymore to tell what's happened and why they are not here anymore. So sexism is not a personal issue for women. It is a struggle for everybody, including for men, because they don't want to be the collateral victim from men acting like predators. There is no point in complaining about women's absence if we can't guarantee them a safe space in their career. If we can guarantee them a safe space where their career are treated with the same consideration as those of the men. So what can we do? It's another conference for another time, but I show you just one thing we do at the University of Geneva. We have a program for secondary girls to go to the university while they are still in secondary school, and they can get credits for the next year if they go to the university in IT. It's called Bootstrap. We launched it for the first time in September. 6 girls for the moment. And we'll see. And we hope it's helped to attract more and more girls. But because it's only for girls, we already have problems with the Ministry of Public Instruction, because we are supposed to be sexist for men, discriminant for men, because we want to open something for 6 girls in a world when 80% of our students are male. Okay, thank you very much. If you read French, this is my last book, and if you read English, a bit of something when I speak about stereotype in tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you for a great talk. I saw, I guess, in a couple plots you showed in the US and in France, I think, that around 1983 there was a major drop-off. And if I understood correctly, this was explained by the introduction of the microprocessor. Do you have any other hypotheses, or do you feel confident that that's, the timing and circumstance fully explains that?
I think there are two main explanations. And the major one, I think, it's the IT profession, career, position became more important, more famous, and we have political discourse about the country have to jump into the next century with its youth able to program. And when the field of knowledge becomes more important in the society, the prominent group of the society go to that field. So it's what happened in IT. And women do not leave IT. Men go in majority in IT. We don't have many women, we don't have many men, and then all the men go in IT. But simultaneously, the personal computer arrives. And it creates this image of the geek, because it was boys who have the first personal computer. And the two events melt in a, how can I say, giant stereotype. But of course, when you say that geeks are the problem, or nerds are the problem for the lack of women in IT, it's completely wrong. Because when you, for example, when you talk to women in IT, and when they say where the problem is coming from, usually it's not from the geek, it's not from the nerds. It's from the hierarchy, it's from their chief, their boss for the commercial of the company, not especially from the nerd. Yes, of course, there are some toxic men like everywhere, but the main problem is the hierarchy of the discipline and not the geek of the nerd itself. But today, when young girls picture what is to be if they go to IT, they imagine, and they are right, they are going to be 10%. So, for example, if there are 35, I make a study in Geneva, in the French part of the Switzerland. When you have 40 students, there is 1 or 2 girls. And if between these 35, 38 men, if 2 or 3 are toxic, for the 2 girls, it's full time. And the 35 nice guys have to be supportive for the 2 girls. And if they just say, yeah, you know how he is, yeah, don't pay attention, he's like that, they didn't realize that for her, it's full time.
So, as you mentioned at the beginning of your talk, I think there was also a nice, in I think MIT Review, an article 2 years ago that was talking about how actually computer science was more female-oriented, and the cultural, let's say, aspect actually made this a change. I was thinking actually how much this cultural aspect is still important and should be somehow integrated in initiatives such as the one that you mentioned, because as my personal experience, let's say, the most gender-biased comments that I received were always related to, let's say, the way a person thinks on the cultural level and not regarding me as a woman in a computer science. So how would you address this aspect?
Sometimes we say it's a question of education. You have to begin very early and you teach the pupils, the children, how to change their mind, and then in the space of one generation, we change the world. I don't agree with that because I don't have the time to wait for a new generation. I think it's a management problem. It's a human resource problem. The culture will change if people inside the lab change. If we officially expose the bias and the problem in the women's career and sexual harassment, etc., etc. We already did a great job in many circumstances. And but the numbers are still the number, so we have to continue. But I don't think we have to wait for a cultural change. For example, if we don't push it, if we don't help, it won't change. And I'm always very surprised how we can accommodate. We say, yeah, it's always be like that, so let's be it. No, it's a real scandal. We cannot make a digital transition with 80% of a homogeneous population and leave the rest of the population outside. We have to realize that it's a major problem for a vast amount of field of knowledge. We have to change things, and we have to be very incentive and not wait for the other generation as a cultural mind change or thing like that. Anyway, I said, I'm 50. When I was 30, people told me, yes, in one generation it will be over. Obviously, no. So we don't have another generation to waste before something changes for equality.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I have only one child, and he's all boy, and he has one cousin, and she's all girl. And if you go into a toy store when we were very young, there's a real difference between the boys' department and the girls' department. And then much later, I was trying to teach very elementary computer science to undergraduates, to people who were not yet started at all. And if you ask questions like, who has seen Lego Mindstorms? I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. But these were toys that were intended to try to teach young kids some programming. My experience was that half the boys had heard of it and none of the girls. And I think the problem was that Lego Mindstorms was about kids learning how to program to drive trucks around in circles. And this appeals to this would be the kind of thing you find in the boys' department of a toy store, but not in the girls' department. Now, it was my belief that the examples that we use to teach very early computer science are much more like Lego Mindstorms, and that the approach that I tried, and I think it kind of worked, is to try to not teach computer science the way the field developed, but to do a rational reconstruction from what's the important application today. And the important application now is for computers to communicate, and not for people. It's not for machines to communicate with machines, but for people to communicate with people. So, if you're looking at a phone, are you thinking about the person at the other side, or are you thinking about the phone? And I want to say, when the phone's working, you don't think about it. So the whole point is to somehow, for this, is to facilitate communication among people. And if it's working, the machine's not even noticed. And that kind of use case seems to appeal better than, say, the Lego Mindstorm use case. And so I think it's the way we're teaching this stuff very early on. I mean, look, it could well be that, you know, there's all kinds of other things going on, but I think we really need to rethink the whole basic low-level, you know, course curriculum in order to try to make this more appealing to a broader set of people. Anyway, I'd love to see something that was more of the solution than the statement of the problem. The problem's been around for as long as I've been in the field, which is a while. And I don't know if it's getting, I mean, maybe it's getting better. I mean, MIT now has half women, but as far as I know, they're not taking these classes. They're taking other classes. And you probably know the statistics better than I do. I mean, complaining about it, I think, isn't going to fix it. We've had a lot of attempts to try to fix it, but we're not succeeding. Anyway, I think what we need to do is to think about the curriculum and to try to make it, you know, more appealing.
I totally agree with you. And the example you give, it's like the example with chess and chess was a male particular
You mean chess, programming
right.
chess.
Programming
Yeah.
chess was a
Right.
particularly male
And
topic.
there are more boys that play chess
And
than
then
girls.
most boys and white men playing chess. And of course, you can't attract everybody if you say that intelligence is playing chess. So I totally agree with your example.
And driving trucks around in circles doesn't seem to work with the girls. Right.
And also for boys, I mean, boys can dare saying, I'm not interested in trucks and I'm not interested in mechanic, but I am interested in language. But if you present things like, this is for boys, this is for girls, boys who want to say, I am interested in language, at primary school, it can be difficult for him to stand his position amongst the other boys. Many of boys explain how they are harassed by other boys and supposed to be homosexual, because not whether they are not, this is not the point, but they are not male enough to obtain the respect of the other boys. So if you mixed a bit the curricula, it will be useful for everybody, for boys and for girls. But it won't be enough, because when you see that even girls who are comfortable with truck and machine and program, etc., can't go through the ceiling glass because they are supposed to be women first and so unable to go in computer science, if we attract girls and then we don't give them the possibility of doing a career,
well,
there is
I mean,
still
that's a
problem.
whole nother issue, but I think the education is the first step. Have you seen the MIT Scratch program?
No, but you know, I am in education. I can't say education is not important. Yes, of course it is. But when you are girls, when you are in IT, and then you realize that you can't stay, how do you want to attract other girls?
Well,
it's a kind of lie, you know. But maybe there is other question in the room.
you to look at MIT Scratch.
Okay. But you also have Scratch in school in France, and we also use it in secondary school, a program using Scratch.
So thank you for the talk. My question is more about ideas. So as we are part of the IT community and we will be teaching and so on, how can we act to, so what are the keys to like maybe encourage so girls or girl-identified people to come in the field, maybe, as you say, acting on the programs or something else? I don't know if you have clues about this.
First, I think it's very important to claim for course in the place when we teach to future teachers, SP in France and etc., to include gender studies in their curriculum, because it's not it's not something easy. If it was easy, we already did that. So it's a real job. It's not only because you speak of, I don't know, Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper, that kaboom, girls will go in IT. It's important to show that there are major female computer scientists at the beginning of the code, for example, but it won't be enough. And it's not only a problem of IT, because what you build in IT, you build the same in literature, for example. So you can't say girls can do any jobs if you can't say boys can do any jobs. It won't stand. So if there is still jobs that we are supposed that boys can do, the discourse will not stand. As a teacher, the first thing, it's like I said, be very strict against harassment and against sexism inside the classroom. Usually, it's very difficult to identify, to recognize, and to realize it happened. Because, of course, as a teacher, you won't see everything. And sometimes teachers told me, yes, but if we stop every sexist word we hear, we can't make the lesson. Yes, it means something. It means there is too many. So of course, when you ask for the girl in secondary school, how was IT? They say, oh, IT was cool. But the other guy in the room, it's impossible. I won't stay with them. So there is a problem with that. And I think quota is a solution. Because when you put a quota, of course, always you are afraid that maybe we include women who are not good enough to enter, etc., etc. But if you put, for example, 30% of quota, women will know that they are going to be at least 30%. So not alone. And the quota is useful for that. Because when I go into IT and I think I will be the only girl, maybe it's difficult. But if I say, yes, we are going to be 30%, not the only girl, it's going to be much easier. And still a word about quota. I was an IT quota woman at my time. But I didn't want to realize that I was, because of course I thought it was, it decreased my talent, my competence. So I would like to think that I was here because of my competence in IT and not because I am a woman. Okay, but at the end, I was one of the top of my bachelor. So even if I was there by quota, I had my place. It's completely incredible to think that the grade you have at the end of secondary school is predictive for the grade you will have at the end of your master. So if you want more women in IT, there is a way. It's to make the room and let women go in IT. And as a teacher, as I said, be very, very be careful of what's happening in your classroom.
So I would actually ask for a practical way how to do that, because I got exactly into that situation. I was as a recruiting part in the team, US-based company, and our quota was 50%. 50% of new hires had to be, we basically, the company decided to be gender equal. That got us in a situation that was absolutely terrible, because I had 10% of women that were actually in the funnel of hiring, and only half of them made it through the 5 rounds of the interviews. And now you are in a situation that you are discussing which candidate should join. And you have real company needs that needs to be fulfilled. And basically gender should play no role in that. You have the need of the team. It is commonly known that the team is much better performing if it's more gender equal. That is, I believe, already established fact, or at least observation. But the part is how to implement that. It gets you in impossible situations. So where to go from now? What are the practical steps that we can actually make so the companies can really hire? Because otherwise it's absolutely impossible.
Yeah, today it's impossible. When you say 50%, you can't. That's it. But if the only policy of the company is you have to find 50%, it's stupid, because you can't. You have to be more clever than that if you want to reach this 50%. For example, if the company have part of education, make contract with apprenticeship, for example, then you contact girls when they are still in secondary school, then you follow them and you give them, I don't know, bursary, incentive anyway, and then you can hire them. But if you are at the end of the pipeline and you say you need 50%, you can't, you don't have 50%. But you also can imagine reasonable quota. Because at school we can say 50% because we have 50% of girls in the pipe. But in the job you don't have it. So 20, 25, it's reasonable. You can reach it in one part, and on the other part, you try to promote women among the students or among the secondary school. But you can't arrive at the end of the pipe and say, now we have to create 50%, of course. And with that kind of policy, I understand that people in the company are thinking that this kind of equality program are stupid, because it's a true impossibility. And worst, I saw it in CERN, for example, in Geneva. In CERN, they do want to have more women in physics. So they say to the team, hire women, find women. But how? They don't teach them how to do that. Make a short list and find women. But it's a real job. I spent 20 years of working about it. You can't ask physicists or computer scientists to be suddenly experts in gender equality. So it's completely stupid to put this kind of order on a team without giving them the knowledge and the way to approach this 50%. Of course, 50% is a nice horizon. We would like to have, as you said, a more gender balanced and diverse team works better, but it just, even if you say, yeah, I want 50%, of course, it's not enough. You have to work with the university, and the university have to work with the secondary school to start a positive stream.
So let's hope it's going to work.
Hello, thank you for the talk. I would like to know your opinion about how effective role models are on this kind of problems, because from my point of view as a father, I see that 90% of the efforts are put on my environment on these role models, and I think we should go forward and try more things. I mean,
role model effectively is very disappointed. There is two different things. We have to recognize when there is qualified women, and you need to highlight them because they are qualified, and for their career it's important. One thing. We have to remember we had women in the past who did very important things in IT, but it's a question of science history. You can't ask for a young girl to imagine, because there was Ada Lovelace, I'm going to be a computer scientist. It won't work like that. Role model is useful only for women who still want to go in IT and it's comfort them. And for that, okay, it's important. Because there are so many signals telling you're not for IT, you're not for IT. If they see inspiring women, as we say, role model, yes, it helps. We don't say, maybe me in 2 years, 3 years, I can be. But that means you have to find close role model. No CEO of Facebook. No, close role model. Women who are students in IT for secondary school, who are in the company for students, or in PhD for master students. Close role model. And okay, it's work a bit. But to change the representation and at school and in the university and in the company, role model is a very poor pink-washing way to have a good conscience for the university or for the company. Because it's cheap. Role model is very cheap. It's a problem of women between women, and the university, us the company, we're all good. It's a problem of women. They dare not. They censor themselves. They don't want to go. Show role model, and they will understand that we welcome them. It's okay when you are an association of women. This is your role. For example, women in mathematics, women in physics, and all the association of women in IT. Yes, it's their role to show there are women active in the field. But for a company or for the university, it's a poor idea. I guess my English melts down the more and more I talk, so maybe it's okay. I think it's lunchtime, yes. Thank you.